listening to the PR Wind Down podcast, the show for public relations professionals who are ready to see real change in the PR industry. We are your hosts, April White and Laura Schooler. Let's get ready to wind down. Hey, Laura Schooler, I want to see your new pants.
I have them on.
Oh my God, they're cute. These the turquoise ones?
Yes, these are the turquoise ones.
Love it. They're cute. They look great.
I got the two best things in the whole store.
Oh my God, you're hilarious. Wait, was the store was it like a dud otherwise?
It was just sort of like you and I could probably open the same store with just like our stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Do you know what I mean? She had some cool stuff like the hilarious like Terry from Pee-wee's Playhouse and Cherry.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I walked in and that was the first thing I saw. And I was like, oh my God, my roommate in college had Terry pterodactyl hanging from our horrible like fluorescent light in the ceiling of our dorm room.
That's amazing.
So we purple, what do you call it? Like cellophane. And we put it on the inside. It was like one of those fluorescent tube bulbs, like a prison room. I mean, maybe this is what everybody's dorm was like on the ceiling. God. So we were like, oh my God, this is the worst lighting ever. So we took the plastic cover off and put purple cellophane inside so that the light in the room was purple, and we hung Terry, the green pterodactyl from Pee-wee's Playhouse.
I love it.
On the ceiling. Yeah.
I love it. Well, at least it was your vibe and a good reason for an excursion.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yes, and I was on TV
hilarious
today, and I was like,
wait, what were you on TV for?
Hunchback. My apartment building. I got, I sent you that New York Times thing. Well, I got
interviewed on. Oh my
God. New York One. Also, we got a segment. I was on for like 2 seconds. They came on Friday and they came today, and they did B-roll, interviewed a few women in my building, and also interviewed me in my apartment. And he used like 2 seconds of me, and I was like, oh God, that's
exciting.
It was. And so people keep coming by the building after reading the New York Times story and seeing today's New York One segment, because they run it all day. Yeah, people keep coming in and they're like, oh, we heard it, we saw, we read, whatever. We want to see the building. Is anything for sale? Is anything for rent? Whatever. Yeah. It was really great. I mean, really one of the best PR maneuvers of my entire life.
That's so cool, Laura.
I know, it was really good.
So it's your birthday and your apartment's birthday.
Yes, it was both.
So what did you do for your birthday?
I went and I had a pizza party with ice cream cake.
You did not. That's adorable. Did they sing happy birthday to you?
At my dad's house. And I invited like my friends from when I was growing up.
Oh my God, that's so cute. Did you have a piñata?
No, I was like, we should have gotten a pin the tail on the donkey.
Okay, and then did your building do anything for your birthday?
And then the building had a huge party for its birthday yesterday. Got like a big tent, like a whole spread, like a wedding or something. And I don't know, 150 people were there, and they had a jazz band from Ellington Foundation, and it was crazy. My dad came to that.
That's so awesome. Well, happy birthday to you and your building.
Thank you, April.
And with that, do you want to let in our esteemed guest of the day?
Yes.
Okay, here she comes. So Kayley Hamilton is the founder of KAYLEY Media. She's a 2-time Emmy-Award-winning celebrity news reporter, journalist, and producer who started out as a quote-unquote shy girl from Colorado, and then was a celebrity journalist for over 7 years who's interviewed hundreds of A-list people, including The Rock, Kim Kardashian, Chris Pratt, Katy Perry, et cetera, on like the biggest red carpets, including the Oscars, the Golden Globes, the Grammys, and the Emmys. And she founded in 2021 KAYLEY Media.
Wow.
So welcome, Kayley. I'm like, we need to bow in your presence or something.
Not at all. No, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And it's so nice to meet you ladies.
I want to know, do you have a favorite celebrity that you've interviewed that you definitely want to have drinks with and hang out and be friends with? And then on the flip side, anybody that was not what you expected?
Oh my gosh, such a good question. So I always say The Rock was the coolest dude ever. He's just like so nice and so chill, so happy, and gives a great interview and is just like warm and friendly. And then someone else interesting is Zoe Saldana, the actress from Avatar, Guardians of the Galaxy. She is the sweetest human ever. I really enjoyed interviewing her.
Wow. And the flip side, are you comfortable mentioning anybody you don't want to be trapped in an elevator with?
One person comes to mind. I don't know if I want to say his name. He's actually also a podcast host as well. It was like a weird day of press interviews at a really hot red carpet. It was like in the middle of summer, like 90, 100 degrees outside.
Was it
And
Hugh
it was
Grant?
just.
Did you see that Hugh Grant interview on the red
Yeah.
carpet? Yeah. That's why I mentioned it.
Oh my
You
God.
know what I'm talking about, April?
No,
We'll talk. Sorry, I let her finish, and then we can go back to that.
But it was just it was not a pleasant little exchange. And the thing with doing celebrity interviews for these outlets is you really need to get a headline and a soundbite. And so sometimes, to be fair, we do as reporters have to ask questions that maybe they don't want to answer. And so sometimes, usually celebrities are so sweet, or their publicists are like, no, we'll skip that one. But that day was just particularly not ideal, and this particular actor was just not pleased to answer my questions.
Wait, so can you tell us what happened without revealing the identity?
I had like a newsworthy question that was happening in the news that I needed to get sound bites from the premiere. So I had asked questions about the movie premiere, and he was in the movie. And then I started to ask a question, and it was like, oh, recently in the news, so-and-so XYZ is happening. And he just goes, nope, in my face, and then just like walks off. Being a young girl, I was like in my early 20s, out on a really stressful, pressure-filled red carpet, huge celebrities, and dying to do a really good job. And so for a really big actor to just totally shut me off in my face,
Wow.
like, as a young girl,
Nope.
I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. And also I was scared that I didn't get the sound bite, and I wanted to do a good job for the company I was working for.
Right.
So
Yeah. Oh, that sounds super stressful.
Wow.
All right, Laura, what's the Hugh Grant thing that I don't know
Yeah,
about?
who was the interviewer?
I think it was Ashley Graham, the model.
Hugh Grant was like in a movie, and he was on the red carpet for something, and she kept asking him questions to, it's just one of those red carpet things. This is not deep stuff. Just answer the question, Hugh. And he was like giving her one-word answers and rolling his eyes at her and being like, I don't know, like, I wasn't even there. I wasn't even really in that movie. I don't know. And he was such a jerk, and it went viral about what a jerk he was. Recently, this was.
That's
Like, dude, what do you think you're doing here? You know what I mean? Like, you're here to answer light questions about the entertainment business. Just do it, and stop being an idiot. It was really bad.
I know. They have to go in with like a lighthearted demeanor,
Yeah.
because it's supposed to be like a fun setting. It's a party, it's the awards. Right. And then if the celebrity just isn't in the mood, sometimes it's still shocking. A celebrity like Hugh Grant can't fake it and just get through the interview and just try to be pleasant.
Yeah, he just shouldn't have done it. As a publicist to a celebrity, I don't know how much control you have over that, but anyway, it's not easy.
It's not easy. That's the other thing.
No.
Publicists to celebrities, they have a very difficult and high pressure, stressful job as well. So it's a lot.
They do.
Yeah. So Kayley, I'm super curious. What was your experience like as a red carpet reporter? How did you break into Hollywood? What's it like being behind the scenes doing all of that? And why did you ultimately leave Hollywood? I want to know the whole journey.
It's the whole journey. I'll give you the high level overview. I grew up,
I love it.
Just a really shy girl from Colorado, but I was obsessed with red carpets, celebrities. I grew up watching Entertainment Tonight after dinner every night with my mom. And I didn't want to necessarily be an actress or be a pop star, but I always wanted to be the one interviewing them on red carpets. I wanted to be the reporter who was kind of connecting with all these people and getting to know them. So that really intrigued me. And I went to college in San Diego, and then I actually ended up applying and getting my very first internship at Entertainment Tonight, of all places, which was extremely lucky. And my gosh, I was so intimidated, walking into the set for the first time and seeing a show that I'd watched my whole life actually being filmed. But I learned so much, and working with the best of the best kind of people. And then they hired me out of college as a production assistant and worked my way up at Entertainment Tonight, and going from being really shy to pushing myself to the level of actually interviewing celebrities was such a huge leap. And I like to say that it's really important to find expanders, like people who you kind of resonate with, or you see bits of them within yourself and they're doing incredible things. Something that, this is really kind of embarrassing, but something that really helped me to kind of visualize my life in like Hollywood was watching that show The Hills with Lauren Conrad, because she was living in LA doing her dream job. They were on red carpets and stuff. It just helped me to manifest and visualize the life that I wanted.
That is
So
funny.
just
It's
having
really cool.
having that her as an expander. And then of course I ended up interviewing her and all the Hills people eventually. And that was like a full circle moment. And it was so much fun.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love it. I'm so curious also. I imagine when you're interviewing celebrities, a lot of the times, they're feeding you fabricated stories for press. How does it feel when you know that they're really in a relationship, but they're pretending to be for the sake of the movie or whatever it is, right? Like, are there examples of those things where you're like, well, I got to report about it anyway because it's in the news?
The only thing that comes to mind is I was interviewing a pretty A-list actor, and we all knew that he was engaged. And so the top question on everybody's mind is, how's wedding planning going? When's the wedding? Where's the wedding? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so he was at this big premiere. And by the end of the line, after doing a handful of interviews, he got to me, and we could all tell, all the reporters, that he just was not happy answering that only question. He wants to talk about the movie, and all the reporters want to talk about his personal life. And we also need to get quotes on his personal life. But I understand there's like a balance to it. But I ended up asking a few movie questions and he answered fantastic. And then I slipped in one about the wedding and he ended up giving me an answer like, oh, it's actually going to be, we're thinking like this summer in whatever place. And then I thought I got like a major exclusive and I was like, whoa, and we reported it and everything. And then cut to 6 months later, he ended up getting married in like totally opposite in the winter in a totally separate location. And looking back, I was like, did he just totally make that up to just get me off his back and to like print whatever headline because he didn't really care anymore and was over it? Or so that was something I looked back to where I was like, was that totally made up? But whatever. It helped my job. Like in the moment
You're like, whoa!
I got the inside scoop and we didn't know any better anyway. So yeah, it's interesting.
That is so funny. But there was never a moment where you're like, yeah, they're not dating.
You know what? There was an interview I did with an actress and her wedding anniversary was coming up. And I asked like, oh my gosh, your like 10-year anniversary is coming up. Congratulations. How are you going to celebrate? And her face immediately dropped. And she was like, yeah, and then I was like, oh shoot. She couldn't, it was really bad. And so that's when I kind of pumped the brakes and then realized, and then cut to like a few months later, she announced her divorce kind of thing. So that has happened before.
That's really sad. Oh,
I know.
That's rough. So how did you find, as a shy girl, how did you go from that to be having the confidence to stand on the red carpet next to these starlets and interview them about personal stuff?
Yeah, I've come up with kind of like a confidence method. And this is something that I use with my clients because even the most incredible like CEOs and founders who are doing amazing things behind the scenes, they struggle with confidence when it comes to getting visibility and being seen. It's just kind of scary. And that's how I felt stepping onto a red carpet and like holding the mic in my hand for the first time. I literally blacked out the first time I ever did an interview. I like came to after the interview. I was like, was it good? I have no idea what I said. It was so scary. But what I practice is I call it the FPL method. So the F is to first fantasize and feel like what you want to accomplish. So I would fantasize what it would feel like to be out on a real red carpet and what it would feel like to hold the mic in my hand and talk to my favorite celebrities. And then along with that is feeling it. So mental rehearsal, feeling what it feels like to be in that scenario before it happens. And then the P is to plan. So once you have that kind of visualization, it's planning and taking those steps and taking that specific action to just get to where you want to be, to bridge the gap between now and then. And pushing yourself is the other side. The first time the mic was handed to me, I really had to push myself off the diving board, basically. and into the water and into the unknown. I cared so much and I wanted to do such a good job, but I had such anxious energy and I would just get so nervous. And I realized that anxious energy and excited energy is the same energy. It's just like seeing it through a different lens. So
Yeah.
being able to transmute that anxious energy into excited energy and like getting pumped up and getting stoked for what's about to happen, that's really helpful. And then the L of FPL is to learn and let go. So as you're taking the action steps, as you're planning, as you're pushing, learn along the way and just take all those lessons. Like there's no failures. It's just a lesson for each step, and then let go. And that's the part that trips people up sometimes, is letting go and trusting that on the other side of what you're getting at, like things will be okay. With my clients, I say, if you're going into a big interview, let go and trust that you have all of the knowledge and insight and information in your head that you need to give a fantastic press interview.
Yeah.
Wow. You really thought about this. Did you think about it ahead of time, or did you think about it in retrospect?
Retrospect. During the pandemic, when I transitioned from being a reporter to an agency owner, that's when all of these incredible experts and thought leaders basically showed up for me doing podcasts, doing these press interviews. And they really changed my whole perspective on like the power of your thoughts. And I knew about manifestation and things like that when I was younger and growing up, but really getting into things like mindset and meditation and all the tools that I kind of learned during that lockdown is what shifted me into also realizing that the new celebrities of my life were now those thought leaders and experts and like CEOs of companies. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to work with them. They're my new celebrities. And there's so many of them that need to be seen and need to be heard from, because those are the types of people that really helped me during the pandemic. You know, no more red carpet interviews. I went through a breakup. I was turning 30 that year. So it was one of those things where I was like, oh my God, what is my life? And then thank God all these incredible people showed up and taught me all these tools and skills to just kind of rethink my life. And so I wanted to help people be seen by people like me who need to hear them. And then, so yeah, basically in retrospect, I've kind of been honing in on what were those steps that really have helped me mindset wise to cultivating confidence.
So what does your agency do now, and how did you make that big leap? I mean, that must have been another push for you with your confidence, right?
Yeah, it was like the let go. Like I just had to trust. And I realized there was so much more out in the world to uplift people's stories and help people get visible, as opposed to, even though it was so much fun and I loved connecting with celebrities, but you know, there's an agenda in entertainment news where we need that kind of juicy, fun, personal headline. And sometimes celebrities love it and they play along and they're happy to give it. But other times it's like, oh, is this a little too far? I don't feel comfortable diving into this kind of thing. So, I mean, it was incredible when I did it. But yeah, taking the leap to starting my agency has been such a blessing.
I can imagine. What kind of clients are you focused on now, or like what would be your dream client?
Right now I work with a lot who are agency owners and own big social media marketing agencies, and actually work with like big music artists and big creators. So there's always like a sprinkle of entertainment in what my clients do. I also love the wellness self-development space. One of my clients, they were psychedelic medicine mentors. And so we got them a lot of press just in that space, like plant medicine and holistic healing. So I really love that industry as well.
That's so awesome. Oh, I love it. Okay, so final question for you. It's a choose your own adventure 2-part question. So you can either answer, what did we not ask you that we should have? Or you can ask us a question.
I love you guys. You guys crack me up. I love this podcast.
You're so sweet.
I had a feeling you were going to give me those options, so I came prepared. Okay,
oh, you did. Look at this.
The PR person and reporter would, right?
Of course you did.
I would love to take this opportunity to ask you a question. I mean, you ladies have so much experience and expertise. I guess my question is like, what avenue you're finding to be the most valuable for your clients in the thought leadership PR department specifically? Just right now, because obviously things are shifting, some outlets are totally going out of business. Yeah, what's the most valuable and how do you see thought leadership PR evolving?
That's a really, really good question that nobody's asked us yet. So did you listen to all of our podcasts and know that nobody asked that?
No.
I was like, wow. I'll let Laura answer this one too. Off the top of my head, I would say that probably podcast, byline articles, and awards are probably top of the list. Nowadays, the speaking ops tend to be only in concert with sponsorships.
Right.
And I feel like it's a very expensive proposition to be able to then speak at something where you don't know how many people are actually going to show up, especially if it's a trade show. Like I actually spoke at a small business expo last year. And at first, there was like 2 people in the room. By the end of it, there were like 40 people in there, but you don't know. It's kind of a big ask. And then if you are responsible to that client and that executive and you have no control over who shows up. I didn't in this case pay for anything, right? I didn't have to do a booth or whatever, but that stresses me out just thinking about putting an executive in front of that
Totally.
flew in, took their time, prepared the speech, has a deck, and then you have no control over who shows up. So in my head, it's like, unless they're on a track to become a professional speaker or consultant, that's part of their brand, that stresses me out a bit. Awards, I think, are always helpful because it always makes you look important, and much more so than the Forbes badge now, because everybody has that,
Yeah.
everybody's on a Forbes council, I think.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, it's not nothing. I still have one myself, but I don't think it's as important as the like PR person of the year, those kinds of awards I think go a lot further. I think bylines are great for getting in exactly what you want to talk about without being too salesy, but actually having a chance to give a full thought on something. And I think if you're good on your feet and you're an engaging personality and you are articulate and fun to listen to, podcasts all day long. Because I think people fall in love with people over podcasts, but not over bylines, right? So it's like, I think if you're like an intellectual person, I'd probably steer you. If you're like a brainy, not very fun person to listen to, I'd probably steer them towards bylines and awards. And I think if they've got a big personality, I'd probably look for more and more podcasts where people are just going to, be inspired by that person and their thought leadership naturally.
I agree with everything. I think a lot of what you're talking about are for startups or mid-sized companies. I've been working with big companies with money to spend, and I have been helping, I'm not going to mention who or anything, but a client, and really was able to move the needle using their content, and they write reports all the time, some of which are a little bit, why would anybody care about this topic?
Yeah.
And others that have been very effective. So, we write a pitch based on their reports and send it to reporters. And when I started, it was sort of like no man's land, but we were able to really build up a lot of interest. And there's a number of spokespeople at this company. And so we're getting Fortune and the Fortune newsletters and the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times, and then some of their key trade publications, that they want to be in. And it's been really amazing. Some of those reporters started coming to us. And the other thing I noticed is finding the right people at these business publications is so, and I know this sounds like obvious, but it's so crucial to really read and really understand, because we got feedback, even sometimes, even if they're not interested, the fact that certain people wrote back to us at all just shows that we've come so far. Today, we had sent out a report that I really thought was interesting. Nobody was, getting back. And I was like, we got to get something. So I did a little more research, and I found a different person at one of the publications. And we were being really targeted, really only going after like 7 or 8 publications. Like, that's it. So he's like, we got to get one of them. And I sent it to one of the junior women on my team. And I was like, try her. If you have, if you're done, try her. And she did. And the woman wrote back in 5 minutes, and they're interviewing one of the experts. So,
hell yeah.
But I really enjoy that sort of work. For a very long time, I haven't felt so accomplished.
Oh my gosh, that's so rewarding. Thank you guys so much for sharing that. I love your insight. Like, it's super valuable. And yeah, nothing feels more rewarding than building something and getting it going and then having it be so successful and continuously. And it's nice that you have reports to go off of and
Yeah.
just to have that fresh content to pitch every week. That's something that, yeah, me and my team work on, like, okay, what quotes can we get from our client this week? Like, what's happening in the news? So it's nice that that was built in for you and that that
Yeah.
company was
I mean,
already doing that.
I've worked for very big companies, and then for a while I've worked for startups, and I've learned so much because going from giant companies like PwC and then working for a startup, that has 5 employees is like two different PR. It's a different job in terms of PR, right? So I learned so much about how startup PR works. And now I've sort of gone back to big companies again. And right now, probably because of this success, I feel like I want to stay in the bigger company realm.
Well, they do, to your point, they do have a lot more resources. So for them, like doing a sponsorship and then speaking there is no big deal. Also,
Right.
but I think you made a good point, Laura, too, that thought leadership is always best served with data
Yeah. Yeah.
and research.
Yes.
So like that's a really good point to make, that wherever they have resources, if they can back up their
Right.
whatever hills they want to die on, issues they want to talk about, if they can back those up with new statistics, new data, new research,
Data,
new
of
findings,
course.
and they can sponsor it or pay for it, then you're golden.
And the other interesting thing is it's a known company, but not as well known as its competitors.
Yeah.
So we did have a little bit of an uphill battle, and we still don't get as much global media coverage as their big 2 or 3 competitors. It wasn't like I'm going to work for Coca-Cola and everybody's okay, sure, we'll write about Coca-Cola, right? So I sort of like that you're not the big guy, you're like the secondary big guy or
Yeah.
gal.
Yeah.
Or gal.
Awesome. Well, anything else you want to mention, Kayley, before we let you go? And then obviously, please, before you actually leave us, tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me. We have openings for PR clients, thought leadership, PR, CEOs, entrepreneurs, creators, kind of in the social media space, wellness space. I also do tech and Web3. I got into the Web3 space and then a sprinkle of entertainment. We focus on podcasts, articles, TV are our top 3 bread and butter. But yeah, that's who we work with. And you can find me at KAYLEYmedia.com, KAYLEY, and same on Instagram and all of the social media platforms.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Kayley. This has been super fun, and we wish you all the best with your new agency and hope to see you on here again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you both.
Yeah, likewise.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Moving on to podcastery. So our news of the day is a note to readers from the editor-in-chief, Emma Tucker, about how the Wall Street Journal is eliminating the routine use of honorifics or courtesy titles in its news pages as of recently. So basically, it said in a note to staff, the Journal has been one of the few organizations in the news to continue using those titles. Then what we mean by courtesy titles is Mr., Ms., and so forth, to help maintain a polite tone. However, the trend among all news organizations and magazines is going without. News articles are becoming this like vestige of more formal past, and that the flood of Mr., Ms., Mrs., Doctor, etc. sentences slows down readers' enjoyment of our writing. My question is that the real reason, or is it that they don't want to be seen as behind on like gender pronoun,
Right.
but they don't want to say that's why?
Well,
Like
it looks
why, like it feels like why now, unless it's a pronoun related thing.
Well, it looks like they were using, and I didn't know this, the prefix MX for somebody who's not gender identifying, I am assuming.
Yeah, gender neutral title. How about that?
And I know you asked me the question, is the New York Times still doing it or not? And I wasn't sure, but I did have a good story about that.
Yes. So but the New York Times is still using the courtesy titles. They didn't get rid of it yet.
It said, I think I saw
they're
that
the
it said
last ones.
They're not using it as fervently as they used to be, but they're still using them sometimes. But here's a good story, and this might be urban legend, but I like to tell it anyway. And maybe we could probably look it up and we could see if it's a made-up story or not. For all of you Wu-Tang Clan fans out there, if you remember the dearly departed ODB, Old Dirty Bastard, he died a number of years ago. But when he was alive, apparently there was some article about the Wu-Tang Clan in the New York Times. And so they, call him in the first mention, old dirty bastard. And then as the article goes on, because they're so stuck on using these, Mr. and Mrs., they called him Mr. Bastard. And the rest of the article, and I just thought it was so funny. Like they're so like stuck on doing this that they even called old dirty bastard Mr. Bastard in the article, like without any humor about it.
That's amazing.
I just thought it was so funny.
That is really funny.
Mr. Bastard. And
That's
see,
great.
so in a case like that, it
It's
kind of makes
awkward.
sense not to use the Mr. and to just say
Bastard.
ODB. No, you were saying
Bastard.
I mean, that's the
Heretofore
other thing.
referred to as bastard.
Just calling, somebody by their last name, I guess is what the Wall Street Journal is going to do now. But yes, in the case of ODB, I think you would have to go with the ODB and not the bastard or dirty bastard.
So funny. I like that. That's a great story. So as far as we know, New York Times still doing it, Wall Street Journal not doing it, and the New York Times is like the last man standing in this.
Bastion, the last mix standing.
Yeah.
What about Sir Mix-a-Lot? They call him Mix-a-Lot.
Well, then was it Mr. Mix-a-Lot? Or did they
Mr. A Lot?
Mr. Sir a lot.
That's great.
Okay. Thank you so much for tuning into the PR Wind Down podcast.
And thank you to Kayley for joining us for a great interview.
Remember, you can submit your own agency stories or not, and questions, and share our show with your friends and colleagues. If you subscribe and leave us a rating, it will also help us reach new listeners like you.
Can't wait to wind down with you again next time.